Now, if you didn't know, I'm a pretty big fan of the Hulk, and as a fan, I am super critical of the adaptations that are put out for the character, because unfortunately, most of the adaptations are not good. I mean, sure, we have the live-action 70s show, which wasn't adapted very faithfully to the source material, but did its own thing and did it well, and even managed to come up with concepts that translated well into the comics. And then there was the pretty great 90s animated series that unfortunately was only great for one season, but other than that, really good. And of course, we got Hulk Ultimate Destruction, one of the best comic book video games to ever exist, bite me. But when he started to get adapted more into live action, it just kind of got worse and worse and worse and worse until he became a shell of the character that he's supposed to be. So today, I don't want to talk about bad adaptations. In fact, I want to talk about a good adaptation, an adaptation that I'm sure everyone has forgotten until today, of course, because I'm the one who showed you the truth, the greatness that is Planet Hulk, adapted from Planet Hulk by Greg Pak. Now, Planet Hulk is widely regarded as one of the best comic book storylines for a character, specifically Hulk, by taking him out of something we all know he usually does and putting him into something different. By different, we mean shooting him off into space, turning him into an alien gladiator, and fighting a bunch of aliens until he becomes the king of said planet. It's very cool and very epic. He even gets to bang some alien chicks. How cool is that? It doesn't really end well because most Hulk comics don't end well, but we'll get back into that later. But yeah, a very cool and a very good breath of fresh air from a comic that was feeling very stale at that moment. So literally a couple years after that storyline came out, Lionsgate Marvel decided to team up and say, hey, let's adapt this, and they did, and they created, as I said, Planet Hulk, which is probably one of the best comic book adaptations ever, bar nothing, because it is genuinely a great adaptation. In fact, it's nearly a shot-for-shot adaptation of the entire film, with some things taken out or some things changed in, but still almost entirely perfect when it comes to adaptation. And today I want to talk about it because I feel a lot of people haven't talked about it, at least not enough, and my small audience deserves to know about Planet Hulk. So let's get into this right now. Now, the movie itself starts off with Hulk getting shot into space by the Illuminati. If you don't know, the Illuminati are these guys. They decided to shoot him up to space because he's just too dangerous and too powerful, and he scares people, and people don't like being scared, so they shoot the giant green guy up into space. Unfortunately, the Hulk doesn't like that, and he wrecks his ship, and his ship gets shot into a wormhole, and he crash lands into the planet of Sakaar. On Sakaar, he becomes a slave gladiator and meets some new people. This giant rock man, this bug guy, a red lady, a red dude who dies in the first round they fight, and this gray guy. Of course, I know their names. Don't tell me I don't know the names. I do. But to be honest, they're not really all that interesting characters, at least not in a movie. He also meets this Brood character. For those who do not know, the Brood are a bunch of parasitic aliens that eat other people and turn them into other broods. They're very cool. They show up in the X-Men a lot. But this one, sort of like an individual brood who doesn't need the rest of them to survive. But unfortunately, she doesn't show up into the movie, so she doesn't matter. But yeah, he teams up with these guys, fights a couple gladiator fights, and he gets to learn about the planet. The planet is being controlled by this dude called the Red King. He has a name. I don't give a shit about it though because I totally forgot. But let's just say he's a really evil fucking dude. And his bodyguard is named Kyera, this chick. She's super hot, and she also got the hots for the Hulk, but they don't know it just yet. While being a gladiator, the red chick tries to escape, and she's captured by the guards of the gladiator ring, and is brought forth to the characters. But before then, they have to fight one of their strongest opponents ever, Beta Ray Bill. I don't really know why they chose Beta Ray Bill, because in the comics, it was Silver Surfer. But actually, come to think of it, I actually do know why. The Silver Surfer in the comics is just stupidly strong, so it's kind of weird how he was just somehow apprehended by a bunch of red aliens. I know in the comics they say it's because he was shot through a portal and that depowered him for a little bit, but still, I think it's a bit stupid. So I guess it's pretty cool that they decided to change it up and make it Beta Ray Bill. It's also really cool for the character Korg, who's the rock man I talked about, because he was on the planet and tried to fight Thor, and Beta Ray Bill appeared. It's also a really cool Easter egg for the first time Thor ever appeared in Journey into Mystery. So I thought that was a really cool little tidbit we got there. So Hulk fights and beats the ever-living shit out of Beta Ray Bill, and Beta Ray Bill manages to free all of the slaves, and they go and run off. They also save the red chick, just to tell you guys. I know you guys want to know about that, but they save her, and, they try to tell Hawk to come with him. Hawk declines because he doesn't have any friends, and he doesn't want any friends, because he's the Hawk. He doesn't need friends, he just needs himself, and he just needs to smash, because he's just that cool. He's just that guy, That is also a bit weird because in the comics he actually does join them and becomes the leader of the group, but I guess I understand why they changed it. Also, this is where the movie becomes a bit of a lower point, because they really try to adapt the rest of the comic issues into like the last 20 or so minutes of the film after spending 40 minutes adapting the first couple issues pretty well. So they kind of rush it towards the end, but it's still really good, just not as good as the rest. So yeah, they go their own separate ways, and unfortunately, the Warbound, who that's what they're called the Warbound, the entire group is called the Warbound, yeah, they get betrayed by the guys they were staying with because the Red King already knew where they were going to. It was a place that was pretty far away from the original kingdom, but unfortunately the governor of that place was in cahoots with the king, and so the king sends in the spikes. Now the spikes are like energy draining monster alien things that burrows deep into you and like turns you into like a zombie monster thing, and it's the reason why the Red King became so powerful, because he basically pushed them onto the people and then saved them from the spikes in order to get the people to basically worship him as their god and their savior. It's also how he managed to get his bodyguard, Kyra. And speaking of Kyra throughout the entire storyline is trying to get the Hawk to leave or to die, because she realizes that the people really love the Hawk. They think the Hawk is like the savior, the Sakar son, who's basically a messianic savior of the planet, whose blood will turn the planet back into like green, lush forests, and help people gain their independence from the tyrant known as the Red King. So she doesn't really like the Hawk all that much, though she kind of does like the Hawk a bit. It's really weird. They have like a really weird love-hate relationship. A very BDSM, if you know what I mean. Now, Kyra finds the Hawk, and, they fight because they don't really like each other all that much, and they just like fighting because that's just something they do, until Kyra realizes that the spikes are off onto the other place that I was talking about, and is killing bunches of people. So she goes off to save the people there, while the Hawk decides to not do it because he doesn't give a shit about anybody, until he realizes that, okay, these guys are my friends, I might as well save them. So he goes off to save them. Unfortunately, it doesn't go very well, because nearly half the entire city is basically turned into like spike zombie things, these little guys, whatever the hell. And while saving a bunch of people, Kyra gets a call from the king, and he's just like, hey, it's a good thing you found the Hawk and all of his guys. We're gonna firebomb the entire city now because you managed to find them, so we can kill them. And, she's just like, wait, what about all these people? They're being, turned into spike zombie things. And the king's just like, oh yeah, I know, I'm the one who sent the spikes. I'm also the reason why your village was destroyed, and I'm also the reason why your parents and your brother are dead. Yeah, that guy was a real piece of shit, if you haven't realized. So yeah, that's pretty cool, right? I don't really know why he decides to like just tell her that, as if she's not gonna get pissed off, but whatever. Yeah, so they basically firebombed the entire city and turned the people into ash, and yeah, that was pretty sad. So long story short, Kyra decides to join up with the Hulk and the rest of the Warbound. They fight and they beat the Red King, and then the Hulk becomes the king of the entire planet. And that's basically the end. Nothing bad happens after that. They're all good. Nothing bad happens. You could say that it was less of an explosive ending than you would think it'd be. Wink, wink. They fucking die if you don't know. Now, as I said before, it's a pretty great adaptation of the storyline, though there are some differences I want to point out. As I said, the Hawk doesn't fight Beta Ray Bill. He fights the Silver Surfer in the comic, but that's just a little thing. And also, another character called No Name, as I said, was also in the comic, but she isn't in the movie. But again, that's fine. The characters don't really do much in the movie anyways, so it doesn't matter too much. The biggest thing I want to talk about, though, is the lack of Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner is talked about a lot in the comic. He's talked about a lot by the Hulk, very angrily, of course, but he's still talked about, and Earth is talked about more often. The Hulk also talks a bit more in the comics. He talks about his past and whatnot to his new friends. And, that was pretty cool. But they don't do that much in the movie. In fact, they keep it pretty close to the chest when it comes to Hulk's backstory and what he tells his friends and whatever. But I guess it makes sense because, the movie is only like an hour and 40 minutes long. So I guess that was some necessary stuff they had to cut out for time. But still, I felt it would be nice if he talked more about Bruce Banner or about like all the other humans and why he's on that planet, because he doesn't do it very much. In fact, the Hulk doesn't even turn into Bruce Banner at all in the film. So yeah, that's pretty wild when you think about it, that this is a totally Hulk story without Bruce Banner whatsoever, which I believe kind of makes it fall when it comes to quality for this movie, but not by much. I do just wish that Bruce Banner was more in it. And as I said before, they kind of like crunch a lot of the last couple issues in the comic for the last bit of the movie, and it all doesn't work as well as it should because, as I said, there's a lot happening in those last bits of comics, a bit more character work and a lot more cooler stuff. But unfortunately, I guess because of time, they just kind of crunched that all down because they couldn't do it all, which is a bit unfortunate because those last bits are really important for the entirety of that character, of that storyline. So not see it is disappointing. Like, one of the biggest parts is, as I said, the spikes. The spikes, as I said, were basically like these parasitic hairy ball things that go into your skin and turn you into a zombie. Well, in the comics, they're actually a race of energy drinking aliens that are corrupted once they go through a black hole, and they become so like thirsty for energy because of that they start eating people basically. And they have a really sad storyline in that, and so the Hulk tries to help them out by letting them basically drink all of his gamma energy from him, and they become better for it. But to not see that in the movie is a bit disappointing as well. Also, as I said before, the Hulk actually does join with the group once they escape the gladiator ring, and he helps them a lot. He becomes the leader of their group, and they soon become a giant rebel army to fight against the Red King. And we don't really see that at all in the movie, which again is also disappointing. But again, it's probably because of time crunch and whatnot, because they had to do it at a specific time and they couldn't adapt it all. But it still would be pretty cool to see all of that, like all those character interactions and whatnot, because it's really cool. Like Meek, the bug guy that I talked about, he found out that in that city that they were hiding in, a bunch of his people were enslaved, and he didn't know about it. So when he told the Hulk basically razed the entire city down and freed the people. In the movie, he also realizes that they're enslaved, but he doesn't do anything to help them. He just wants to help his friends that are with him and not the rest of the bug people who he's like super faithful to, at least in the comic. So again, also disappointing to not see that at all. There's also the stuff that happens after he defeats the Red King, like he helps the planet to get better after helping up the spikes. He helps people to stop fighting, and he shuts down the gladiator ring and stuff like that, and he frees all the slaves. Like, there was a lot that happened after he beat the Red King that we don't really get to see, unfortunately, because of time constraints, again, as I said before. But still, overall, I would still say this is a really good adaptation, and it's still worth to see. But it's still a bit disappointing that we didn't get to see all the other stuff because of time crunching and the fact that they couldn't adapt the last bits of the comic. Even then, the good stuff is still really good. The animation is really good. It's not like top tier or anything, but it does what it needs to do, and the action scenes are pretty awesome. And of course, I can't talk about, the Hulk without talking about the Hulk's voice. Rick D. Wasserman, I believe that's his name, does an amazing job as the Hulk. I just love the way he voices the Hulk. The Hulk in this movie is he has this very controlled and soft-spoken way of speaking and whatnot, but just underneath that, it's just that raw and uncontained anger that you'll get if you just so much peeve him off. And it's awesome. When he gets pissed off, he really does. And I just really love the voice that they give him in here. So much so that whenever I think of the Green Scar, the main Hulk persona that is in this movie, I usually think of Rick D. Wasserman's voice whenever I hear him, whenever reading the comics, because it's just that good. Everybody else also does really good in the voices. The voice department is just very good overall, and I like it a lot. Honestly, the most disappointing aspect of the movie is the fact that we never got a sequel, and that is an adaptation of World War Hulk, where Hulk goes back to Earth to fight all the superheroes. Now that'd be fucking epic. But unfortunately, the partnership between Lionsgate and Marvel ended around that time, so we never really got to see that. But still, I would still say this is a really great adaptation, and probably one of the best adaptations for the Hulk ever, and probably going to be the last good adaptation of the Hulk ever, at least for now. Yeah, give it a watch, give the comic a read, and it's really good, it's super quality, and I think a lot of you guys would like it. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me down in the comments what else you want me to talk about. And, don't forget to follow my Instagram. And I'll see you next time.